There's a quiet kind of power that lives in those who walk through life with the certainty that everything is always working out for them. Not because they have evidence, not because circumstances always appear favorable, but because they've chosen to adopt a state of mind where doubt no longer runs the show. This is not arrogance. It's not denial. It's a vibration of frequency aligned with faith, expansion, and alignment with universal law. When Bob Proctor spoke of success, he never described it as something to chase. He saw it as something to tune into. He would say, everything is already here. If not in form, then in substance, the supply is always equal to the demand. The real question becomes, are you acting in a way that matches the reality you desire, or are you responding to what you see, staying locked in a loop of reaction, hoping for evidence before you allow yourself to believe? The phrase act as if everything always works out is more than a mindset. It's a conscious rejection of fear-based thinking. It's a decision to believe in harmony even in the middle of chaos, not as a performance, but as a chosen identity. The version of you who lives with that certainty already exists. That person makes decisions from trust, speaks with conviction, and carries themselves with calm clarity, not because life is perfect, but because they've learned to become the cause, not the effect. If everything in your reality is a reflection of your dominant vibration, then choosing to live as if everything always works out isn't delusional. It's one of the most strategic, energetic alignments you can make. Most people are waiting for the world to give them a sign before they feel safe. But that's backward. The law of attraction responds to your dominant feeling state, not to your desires. It mirrors your internal expectation. So let's ask an uncomfortable question. What are you really expecting? When you start a new project, is there a quiet part of you already imagining it falling apart? When you meet someone new, do you expect the connection to fade? When money flows in, do you brace for it to disappear just as quickly? These patterns aren't bad, but they are habitual. They come from paradigms you didn't choose, but you continue to live by. Bob Proctor taught that a paradigm is nothing more than a set of mental programs controlling your habitual behavior and, therefore, your results. He would often say, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. That's where acting as if everything works out becomes so powerful. It's not pretending, it's practicing a new paradigm. Juanda sees, I trust the process. I believe in the unseen. I know things are aligning, even when I can't see it yet. When you live this way, your vibration shifts. You no longer need to micromanage outcomes. You're not chasing guarantees. You're moving with trust. And trust is magnetic. It draws in opportunities that frantic energy repels. But here's the deeper truth. Most people are addicted to control. They want certainty because they don't feel safe. And that's why they stay stuck. They check for signs, analyze results, seek proof. But the law of attraction doesn't respond to intellectual analysis. It responds to emotional conviction. So what would change if you made a decision right now that from this point forward, you would assume that every challenge carries a hidden benefit? Every delay is part of a divine adjustment. Every redirection is leading you closer to something better. Not once, not sometimes. Always, this is the vibration of unwavering belief. Not blind optimism, but energetic alignment. A frequency that says, even when I don't understand it, I know it's working out. That energy dissolves resistance. It clears mental static. It allows intuition to speak louder than fear. Bob Proctor used to ask, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? But there's a deeper layer. What if failure itself was just a misunderstood success? What if every time things don't go as planned, it's not a setback, but a setup for something higher, more aligned, more precise? When you act as if everything works out, you don't bypass struggle, you reframe it. You stop labeling moments as bad or wrong, and instead ask, how might this be serving me in ways I can't yet see? That question elevates your vibration instantly. It moves you from victimhood to creation, and it's in that shift that your true power is activated. Most people think alignment means everything feels good all the time, but Bob knew better. He taught that alignment is a decision, not a feeling. You choose the frequency you live in. You don't wait for the world to justify it. That's what separates those who manifest consistently from those who manifest sporadically. Living as if everything always works out doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means recognizing that reality is always in motion and your focus determines how it unfolds for you. If you focus on what's missing, you expand lack. If you focus on what's unfolding, you expand possibility. The person who truly understands the law of attraction doesn't ask, what if this doesn't work? They ask, how can I align more fully with the version of me for whom this always works? because that version exists, and every time you speak, think, feel, or act like that version, you collapse the gap between who you've been and you're becoming. But this requires consistency. Bob emphasized the repetition of new ideas. One exposure to a concept doesn't create transformation. It's daily, intentional immersion in new paradigms that rewires the subconscious. That's why affirmations, goal writing, and visualization are so powerful when done with emotional intensity. Not because they impress the universe, but because they rewrite your inner blueprint. The more you think from the place of everything working out, the more your nervous system relaxes. You become less reactive. You stop chasing. You magnetize. And people feel it. Circumstances shift to match it. The delays don't rattle you anymore because your inner state is no longer negotiable. You stop looking for permission to believe. You start deciding. That decision is where it all begins. Most people have been trained to live based on appearances. If something looks positive, they feel hopeful. If something looks uncertain, they shrink. But if you truly want to live in alignment with the idea that everything always works out, you must step beyond appearances. You must stop reacting to what your senses tell you and begin responding to what your inner knowing confirms. Bob Proctor was relentless about this point. He often said the senses lie. The truth is in spirit. That truth isn't something external, it's a frequency you tap into. It's the part of you that already knows the outcome is unfolding in your favor, even when your current circumstances seem to contradict it. Living from that place doesn't mean you never feel doubt. It means doubt no longer runs your decisions. It means you've chosen a higher authority, the image you hold in your mind, not the facts you see in the world. That's where wealth, confidence, and magnetism are born not in numbers or logic, but in faithful vibration. So how does this actually look in your everyday life? It begins with your self-talk. Most people use their inner voice to rehearse failure. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They argue for their limitations. They prepare for loss. But someone who acts as if everything always works out does the opposite. Their inner dialogue is filled with calm certainty. They say things like, "This will turn in my favor. I don't know how, but I trust that it will." They aren't naive. They are committed to a different paradigm. And that commitment doesn't just affect your feelings, it influences your decisions. Think of how you behave when you already know something is working out. You breathe deeper. You move slower. You speak with conviction. You make bold choices. You stop second guessing. You move from the vibration of having, not needing. And in that state, you become far more powerful than you ever are when operating from fear. Bob Proctor explained this using the concept of vibration and frequency. Every thought carries a frequency. Every feeling sends out a vibration. And every decision you make is either reinforcing your current paradigm or elevating you to a new one. When you begin to act as if your success is inevitable, you move to a frequency where your goals already exist. And on that frequency, the ideas, people, and resources aligned with that success begin to appear. This is not a coincidence. It's not luck. It's law, but it requires emotional discipline because life will test this belief. There will be moments where things fall apart, where delays happen, where silence stretches longer than you expected. In those moments, your nervous system might want to panic, but your job is to stay in alignment with your truth. Everything is working out, even this, especially this. This isn't about faking peace. It's about choosing trust over and over again until it becomes your new normal. Bob would often say, faith and fear both demand you believe in something you can't see. You choose. That choice isn't made once, it's made moment by moment. Every time you respond with trust instead of control, you reinforce the frequency of abundance. You condition your subconscious mind to expect the best, and the law of attraction reflects that expectation. But let's go even deeper. When you act as if everything works out, you stop trying to protect yourself from disappointment. You realize that even your perceived failures are part of your alignment. That missed opportunity, it redirected you towards something more precise. That financial loss, it taught you how to operate with sharper awareness. That relationship ending, it created space for real connection. You begin to understand what Bob meant when he said, everything you need is already here. It's just a matter of becoming aware of it. You can't become aware of your solutions while clinging to fear. Fear narrows your perception. It blinds you, but trust opens it. Faith widens the lens, and that's where wealth consciousness begins. Most people think money is the solution to their problems, but Bob knew the truth. Money is a byproduct of alignment. It flows toward those who live from abundance. It avoids those who chase it from lack. When you act as if things always work out, your energy becomes expansive. You begin to attract money not by force, but by magnetism. You don't hustle for it. You hold the vibration of someone who already knows that resources are always available, and that shift changes everything. Imagine the version of you who doesn't worry about bills, who doesn't panic over income, who makes decisions from vision, not from fear. That version of you makes better investments. That version of you notices doors others miss. That version of you is in the right conversations, at the right time, with the right people. Acting from that place doesn't guarantee overnight riches, but it guarantees a sustained upward shift in vibration, and that shift always produces results. The danger is that most people give up too soon. They start strong visualizing, affirming, shifting, but then when nothing appears to change externally, they default back to doubt. They stop acting as if everything works out and return to reacting as if nothing ever will. That swing in vibration collapses their progress. Bob Proctor warned against this. He taught that persistence is not just physical, it's vibrational. Holding your alignment through uncertainty is where the real work lies. And that's where most breakthroughs happen, not when it's easy, but when you maintain belief in the dark. You don't need more answers. You need more alignment. You don't need to control the outcome. You need to live as if it's already settled. Because from the perspective of universal law, it is your desires are not random. They are signals, indicators of a version of you that's calling you forward. And that version is not somewhere far away. It's one vibrational shift away. Every time you decide to act from trust, to speak with clarity, to refuse panic, you bring that version closer. You collapse time between you and your outcome. That's the power of assumption. That's the power of identity. That's the power of living as if everything already is working in your favor. To truly act as if everything always works out, you must let go of your attachment to how things appear. Because life will challenge your conviction. It will offer you moments that seem out of alignment, delays, losses, closed doors. But these moments are not mistakes. They're vibrational checkpoints, testing whether you're committed to your vision or merely hoping for quick confirmation. Bob Proctor often taught that circumstances are never the cause, they are the effect. And when you internalize that, something shifts. You stop blaming, you stop waiting for change. You begin to understand that your outer world is rearranging itself to mirror the belief systems you've installed. And that means even the challenges serve you. So when a deal falls through, when a person walks away, when the bank account looks low, you no longer collapse. You pause, you breathe, you ask, how is this working in my favor? Even if I can't yet see it. That question keeps you in a creative vibration. It allows new answers to surface. It opens your perception to a bigger pattern. Because if you really believed everything always works out, you wouldn't panic, you'd observe. You wouldn't shrink, you'd expand. You wouldn't try to force things, you'd flow with what's unfolding. This level of inner stability is not built overnight. It's built through intentional emotional discipline, the ability to remain energetically aligned. Even when your external conditions are temporarily misaligned, Bob used to say, discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. That command isn't always about action. Sometimes it's about energy. It's the ability to tell your mind, we are staying in faith. We are holding the vibration. We are not negotiating with fear. That discipline is what separates those who manifest consciously from those who manifest inconsistently. And it's not just about material results. Acting as if everything works out affects your relationships too. Think of how much tension, neediness, and fear is created in relationships because one or both people are living from lack. They're afraid of loss, afraid of not being enough, afraid of being abandoned. But when you move through life with a belief that everything works out, you don't need to control people. You don't need to prove your worth. You become a safe, space-stable, grounded, magnetic. Pay-uply feel it. They sense your wholeness. That's not something you say. It's something you radiate. You stop needing relationships to fill a void because you've already assumed your wholeness. And from that place, the connections you attract are healthier, deeper, and more in tune with who you are becoming. Bob always emphasized identity over effort. You must begin to see yourself as the person you want to become. He didn't mean in theory, he meant in vibration. The way you walk into a room, the way you carry a conversation, the way you respond to pressure. These are all reflections of your self-image, and your self-image is what controls your results. So if you want to manifest a life where everything works out, you must embody the self-image of someone for whom things always work out. That person doesn't act from fear. They don't settle. They don't rush. They're not constantly checking whether the universe is cooperating. They assume it is. They trust the process. They are clear in their direction and calm in their energy. That's the vibration that draws the right people, the right timing, the right opportunities. But here's where it gets subtle. Most people try to adopt this mindset until it gets hard. They practice alignment for a few days, and then when things don't look different, they return to doubt. What they don't realize is that they just restarted the clock. Every time you abandon the vibration of faith, you delay the outcome you are attracting. Bob Proctor was unwavering in this truth. Faith and fear both demand you believe in something you cannot see. You choose. That choice becomes a way of life. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. So what does it mean practically to hold this frequency? It means you no longer ask small questions like, is this working? Instead, you ask, how can I stay aligned? You stop asking for reassurance and start living in such a way that reassurance becomes unnecessary. Because deep down, you've made a decision that's stronger than your circumstances. That decision gives you access to clarity in the middle of confusion. It gives you emotional stability when everyone else is in panic. It allows you to lead your life instead of reacting to it. Bob often spoke about the higher faculties of the mind will: imagination, reason, perception, memory, and intuition. These are what separate us from the rest of the natural world. When you use your will, for example, you choose to focus your mind on what you want, regardless of distraction. That is not delusion, that is mastery. It's easy to be in alignment when things go your way, but the real work and the real transformation happens when you hold your frequency even when it would be easier not to. That is when the shift occurs, not outside, inside. And that internal shift is what eventually commands the outer one. You stop asking, when will this happen? Because that question comes from lack. You begin to affirm, it's already happening, and I'm aligned with it. You start feeling gratitude for what hasn't shown up yet, not because you keep pretending, but because you trust that it's already in motion. And trust speeds manifestation, fear delays it. So if there's one thing to anchor in every day, it's this. Your energy is more powerful than your effort, and your belief is more powerful than your strategy. Live as if everything works out. Speak as if it has already done. Think as if the path is unfolding for you, not against you. That isn't just positive thinking. It's vibrational alignment. It's what Bob Proctor taught, lived, and passed on to thousands of people who finally understood that the secret to success was never outside of them. It was in the decision to believe, not once, not occasionally, but consistently, that the universe is always working with you. And that belief reshapes your entire life. When you make the decision to live as if everything always works out, you're not just adopting a mindset, you're rewriting the foundation of your identity. You are no longer driven by doubt or scarcity. You are led by vision, by alignment, by a deep inner knowing that what you desire is not only possible, it's already under. This choice is subtle, but it's everything. You begin to notice how the smallest moments reflect your new vibration. That email that arrives at just the right time. That stranger who says something that feels like a message. That delay that turns out to be protection. You realize the universe has always been responding to you, not to your words, but to your frequency. And that's where the shift becomes permanent. Bob Proctor used to say, you were born rich. Not just in the financial sense, but in talent, in possibility, in potential. That richness is not activated by effort alone. It's activated by consciousness, by awareness, by the energy you hold when no one is watching, when nothing has shown up yet, when the world is quiet and your only companion is your own vibration. So the real work is not in chasing. The real work is in becoming the person who no longer waits to feel secure, but it decides they already are. Becoming the person who doesn't ask for evidence but walks like someone who carries the answer. Becoming the person who meets uncertainty with peace, who meets resistance with grace, who meets change with readiness. That's not blind optimism. That's energetic intelligence. The world will try to pull you back into old rhythms. It will tempt you to doubt, to compare, to control. But when you live from the paradigm that everything works out, those temptations lose their grip. You no longer need to chase outcomes. You hold your vibration and allow life to organize itself around it, because it always do. The only thing that delays that process is your own resistance, your fear, your second guessing. But the moment you return to the vibration of it's all working for me, the current starts flowing again. Not because of magic, but because of law. Bob taught that universal laws are never broken. You can't break the law, but you can break yourself against it. And that's exactly what happens when you live in contradiction, saying you want abundance but feeling lack, saying you want clarity but embodying confusion. But when your thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to match, you become aligned. And when you're aligned, you move from force to flow. You begin to receive with ease what you once tried so hard to chase. That's not a trick. That's the result of mastering your vibration. And that mastery starts in one simple, powerful decision: to act as if everything always works out. Not when things feel easy. Not when you're in the mood every day. Because that's who you are now. You wake up and you carry that vibration into your thoughts, into your speech, into every decision you make. You don't shrink back when things wobble. You anchor deeper. You declare, I know this is unfolding for me in a way that's even better than I imagined. And then you live like it. You breathe like it. You build like it. You stop seeking signs because your energy is the sign. You stop waiting for proof because your certainty is the proof. You walk through life knowing that your future is already yours. Not because you've forcing it, but because you've chosen to align with it in the present. Bob Proctor's legacy wasn't built on strategies. It was built on principles, on truth, on the realization that the most powerful thing you can ever do is decide who you are and refuse to break that identity no matter what life throws at you. So ask yourself right now, if you knew without question that every delay, every challenge, every unknown moment was actually part of a perfect unfolding, how would you move today? How would you speak? What would you stop resisting? What would you stop fearing? That version of you exists. And the law of attraction is always responding to that version even when your old habits try to take over. So this is your invitation. Not just to hope things get better. Not just to wait for circumstances to change, but to become the version of yourself who already knows everything is always working out for me. Everything serves me. Everything flows toward me. Everything expands me. And if this message stirred something in you, if a part of you recognized the truth in these words, not from logic but from vibration, then this is not an accident. You found this for a reason. You're being called to return to your power. And this is just the beginning. So take the next step in your expenses. Subscribe to this channel right now. Because here, you'll find more than just information. You'll find alignment, vibration, truth. You'll hear the words that remind you of who you've always been. And you'll learn how to build the life that matches your highest frequency. Not someday, not when conditions are perfect, but now, because everything you're seeking is already seeking you. And everything really has been working out for you.